The economy is always listed as the most important subject for many voters. If you were in Congress, what would you do to try to improve the economy, and what could you do as a congressional representative to ensure that people in the first district have access to plentiful, good-paying jobs?
I just want to work with the people, and part of that is understanding the district better. I live in Sevier County, so I'm at a different end of the district than some other candidates. We have I would say a lot more tourism that goes on down there, so it's a little different bit of economy. One of my points is I like the fair tax, which would get rid of a lot of the business taxes and payroll taxes and all that, and just to help drive more money into businesses that would be able to raise the wages and provide more jobs that way. Some of the other things that I would look into is a part of that with the fair tax is it would make us more competitive on the global market to help bring jobs back here to the U.S. So we would not have one of the highest business corporate taxes in the world. So we would start, it would be zero. So we would be bringing people back into jobs back into the U.S. And that would even make it competitive to other countries that have lower tax rates, because they would come here and start headquarters over here to provide jobs and opportunities to get better tax rates as well. So that's one of the things that I have on my issues and different things. So that's just one of the small things that I would put forward and try and work with. But I'm always open to new ideas. I don't consider myself the smartest person in every room. Sometimes I am, but then other times I don't think I have all the answers or anything. I'm still a fairly young guy, so I always look to people who've been there and who's been in business and accountants and other things to try and figure out what's our best plans and things to move forward and to really help the people. And that's something I really want to do, is help the people and listen to the people and actually hear them out and fill them out and see where they're at and be that with that, however that is. And some of that can be, with the tax cuts, with the fair tax stuff. Some of that could just be working with them and understanding what's the best moves to help this area.
What is the best way legislatively to prevent gun violence, and specifically school shootings and mass shootings?
I think we need to have, I kind of agree with NRA statements and stuff with having teachers who do feel comfortable with carrying. Because growing up, a lot of my teachers had their carry permits and hunted and stuff around here. And I think giving them opportunities to be able to carry, I think that would be a great way to start. Because there's several teachers there, and you don't have to wait for police to necessarily respond. They could be all across the county or somewhere else, and we can have people who already are trained to carry a weapon, who have taken the classes to be able to do that, or grown up and handled that. I'm not saying it needs to be a complete gun-free zone, but I think if you are licensed and able to do that, maybe even have an extra training session or class over summers so teachers understand different situations with that. But I think that would be a great way to help prevent school shootings, and that's just kind of how I see it. So.
Okay. What is your plan for fixing America's immigration problem?
I support building the wall. I think as a sovereign nation where we should be allowed to have some sort of barricade, whether that's a wall or a fence or something. A lot of there have been congressional bills and stuff that have been bipartisan in some ways, and that have approved fences or some sort of barrier, and I think that's a great way to start. Let's enforce the laws we have on the books, and if there's already something there, let's finish fulfilling that legislative priority and get that done. I think that's a start. I'm all for people coming here. I think this is the greatest country in the world. I don't believe we should force anyone not to be here, but I don't think we should just let them come over in droves. We need to know who they are, where they're from, what they're trying to do here, whether they're asylum seekers or they're looking for better opportunities for themselves or their children. Instead of just bringing, whatever over here. We've got a lot of drug coming in, a lot of, one of my issues is sex trafficking, sex slavery and different things like that, and that's coming over the borders. We got to make sure we stop that and see where that is, how that's coming through and just prevent it. And we need to work with the agencies that we have in place there. We need to work with the local police and other agencies that are down at the border to help prevent some of that to come on. I think we've got a lot of books on, a lot of laws and policies on the books that just need to be enforced. So put a greater emphasis on enforcing those laws that are there.
How important is it to not increase the national debt and to balance the annual budget?
I signed the balanced budget amendment pledge. That's something I see. I follow Dave Ramsey personally with myself and my family. My wife does accountant stuff, so she's all the time on me about budget stuff. So I know I would be the one that sees that stuff with the Congress, but having her there telling me stuff, and I'm learning more and more about budgeting and different things, and I do think it's important. I think we've let the debt go out of control, and I think we're seeing more and more of that happening with some of the coronavirus, COVID-19 spending and stimulus bills, and then we're just now talking there's going to be another round of payments coming out, which I do think we need to help people with that. But then it's like, where's that money coming from? How's it going? I think we really need to look at it and go, let's balance this. Let's see where we can cut things and move things around. And one of those things, I think, with the fair tax, we would help increase revenues that way with that as well. So,
what, if anything, do you think President Trump could have done or could be doing better in his handling of COVID-19?
I'm not there. I'm not there yet, hopefully. I'll be there and see some more of the stuff that's going on and being there. I think he's doing a decent job at it, being not a doctor, being not in the medical field, and providing that he's put some people into place that are there, that's been there and seen infectious diseases and been there and been on different task force with other presidents in the past. So I think he's getting some good information in. I think there's a lot of misleading information that's getting out on the media, and it's just one of those things we need to look at and go, okay, what's fact, what's not fact? Let's really dig into that and see those numbers. And so I think he's doing a good job, but that's on my end, just seeing just some of the things and knowing that not everything that goes out over the TV waves or the radio waves is true, and you're gonna have to, let's go look at numbers. And I've got friends who are in the medical field, and I try to talk to them and see what numbers are you seeing, what are you seeing from your hospitals, what are you seeing, and that's what I'm trying to do, is to weed through some of that information and not just rely on him as the president, and not just relying on like Dr. Fauci or just one media source, going to multiple sources. But he's the president. He's supposed to set an or a tone of kind of peace and calm in the midst of this kind of storm. And I think he's trying to do that. I think he's not trying to get out there and be panicky and go like, oh, we're all going to die, but be there and say, this is a real thing. We need to start putting some things in place. And I think he has been listening to some of those professionals that he had brought on to advise him on that.
Do you believe climate change is real? And if so, what do you think is the best approach to combat it?
No, I don't believe climate change is real in the alarmist sense that a lot of people want to say that we're going to burn up in like 10 years. I don't believe that. I do believe climate change is real in the fact that we go through periods of time where we are hotter and colder. That's why we have ice ages. That's why we've had periods of hotter temperatures. There's a guy who studies the sun and believes it's going into a new phase, so we're going to have a different way the sun hits us over the next like 10 years period. So it may actually be cooler, but that's just looking out at all the information. I do think that we need to, I'm more of a conservationist instead of an environmentalist, because I love like the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Being from Sevier County, I like going hiking, I like doing things outdoor, but I don't think we're causing that much of an impact on the climate or the environment in a way that it's destroying it at a rapid pace. There was an interview with the Greenpeace founder, and he came out and said it's all a lie, which was surprising that he would come out and say that. But I don't follow him that much. I have a friend who's more into environmental stuff, and I'm like trying to get some information from her to see where that is. But because I like to have sources and not just hearing things. So just because I said that, you know, if anyone asks, I can get the information to them. But I think we need to take actions like personally. Like I don't think the government should require us to do things like forcing us to recycle or forcing us to not drive certain ways or doing things. I think we should have personal responsibility, that if I want to drive a SUV that gets 1 mile to the gallon, I should be able to do that. But we need to move forward and just protect the things we have, and I think that's why we established the national parks. That's why we provide federal lands that are set aside that you can't hunt on, you can't mow down and make them into a shopping center or stuff like that. So there is places that we have green areas.
If elected to Congress, what would you do to address the racial tension that has become evident in recent protests, and how would you try to improve race relations in the first district?
I always try and become friends with people, especially of different backgrounds, different religions, different ethnicities, just to understand where they're coming from. I understand we all have a worldview and the way we see the world, and I don't want to belittle anyone that has a different one than I do. So I try and kind of become friends with people, or at least friendly with people, to be like, let me understand this. And I've told people, if I say anything that's like offensive to you or whatever, please let me know, because I'm not. If you just let it go, then I'm not going to know that I've offended you or said something insensitive. Or so that's something that I've always put forth just in my own life, and I just want to work with people. I think there are ways to do that legislatively and just on personal levels, like I've said personally. I don't know if there should be blanket legislators to try and fix every problem, because I think it's hard to do that. But I think we need to move forward with some areas. And I don't have all those answers. I don't know right now, from sitting here just running with no political experience. I've not been in meetings and seeing where those happen and trying to work toward those steps or see what's going on currently. And I only hear the snippets on the news where they're talking. But I think we have to work together as a whole and not just take one little fraction and go, okay, we have to put forth this. Well, what are they saying that needs to happen, and what I just want to learn from people and have conversations to advance whatever it is, whether it's racial tensions or well, not advance them, but to come to resolution with them. And
do you support a regional economic development effort, and that's been discussed more up here in the Tri-Cities, that could involve merging economic development organizations and even potentially chambers of commerce, say in the Tri-Cities? And if you do, what role do you think a congressperson might take in that?
I don't necessarily agree with merging them. I think we should be somewhat individual entities. because I believe that's getting into, we're starting to form little small governments that are not conducive to every area. Now, I don't have all the information on this. I'm just now starting to learn about it because I'm realizing that that's been more of a conversation up in this end of it. So, but some of the things I've been reading and seeing, I don't like about them. I don't mind like a free trade agreement and working across things, but when you start blurring county lines and state lines and stuff, you know, I think it gets a little hairy and not a good thing. I think we should have our own individual area. That's also part of the reason I'm running from the southern half of the district, because we've had a lot of people from the Tri-Cities. Not saying that I'm trying to not bash anybody from the Tri-Cities, but it's been a long time since someone from someone other than the Tri-Cities. It's been over 100 years since someone from Sevier County's been in this seat. So,
is there any approach that President Trump has taken to his job that you would have done differently?
My use of Twitter probably wouldn't be different. I understand why he does it, but I've been using Twitter more lately just to help get the message out. But that's probably somewhere I wouldn't have relied on it as much as he does. But I think he's approached it differently than a lot of other people. He's approached it more from a business standpoint than from a political standpoint, and which I think is a good thing. It's in a lot of ways I find it refreshing, because everyone comes in with kind of the same mentality and the same thing, and he's like, "Let's get to work. It's a business. Let's run it that way," type of a thing. That's how at least I perceive it, and I don't really see much different than what he would have done. So.
Okay, so this is the last
Okay.
question. This is a moment for you to speak to voters.
Okay.
What makes you the best person to represent the folks here in the 1st District?
Okay. I believe that I'm the best one to represent because I want to have conversations with people. I want to be, I always have an open door policy with anybody. Like I was saying with the race relations, I want to learn and grow and be part of a solution, and I don't want to be not left out, but I don't want to be on the outside not helping people. That's one of the things that I really feel called to is helping people and serving people. That's part of the reason I got into ministry. That's part of the reason that I feel kind of called into this role to help in a larger scale than in the local church area. I just want to help and be of help. I always tell people that they can call me pretty much any time. I'll answer it in the middle of the night. I'll answer it in the middle of the day. I had someone call me today and had some questions and wanted to ask me about some of the issues I'm running on. And a great conversation. Had a good time talking to them, hearing them out. And that's what I want to be. I want to be that representative. I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to be anything other than a truly representative of this district.
Phil Arlinghaus?
Yes.
Thank you for coming all the way up here and visiting with us for just a short time, and we're happy to be able to afford every candidate the opportunity to answer the same list of questions